I hope you are good and safe at home. Today we are going to see about History Unit 1, Sources of Medieval India. The history is divided into three different periods. One is ancient period, medieval period and modern period. You have already learned about ancient period in class 6. Now today we learn about medieval period in class 7. Medieval period is classified into two types. One is early medieval and later medieval. Early medieval from AD 700 to 1200. Later medieval from AD 1200 to 1700. Let us now explore the various sources available for the study of the history of medieval India.
Sources. Sources are the supporting materials, documents and records in the form of evidence that help to reconstruct the past. Classification of sources, primary sources and secondary sources. We examine the details of political, economic and socio-cultural developments with the aid of sources. First we see primary sources. Inscriptions, monuments and coins are the information available in them. Secondary sources. Literary works, chronicles, travelogues, biographies and autobiographies are the secondary sources. First we see inscription. Inscriptions are writing engraved on solid surface such as rocks, stones, temple walls and metals. Various types of lands gifted by the Chola kings are known from the inscriptions and copper plates. They are Velon Vahai, that is land of non-Brahmin proprietors. Brahmadeya, that is land gifted to Brahmins. Shalaboha, that is land for the maintenance of a school. Devadana, that is land gifted to temples. Pallichandam, that is land donated to Jaina institution. Several copper plate grants issued during the later Chola period record gifts to individual priests. Tiruvallangadu plates of Rajendra Chola first and the unveiled plates of Sundara Sola are notable example. Uttaramerur inscriptions in Kanchipuram district provide details of the way in which the village administration was conducted. Next is monument. Monuments are temples, palace, mosques, tombs, forts and minarets are called the monuments. The Sultans of Delhi introduced a new type of architecture. The monuments they built had arch, tombs and minarets as the main features. The inscription in these monuments contains rich informations. The medieval Khajuraho monuments in Madhya Pradesh and temples in Konark in Odisha and Dilwara Mount Abu in Rajasthan constitute valuable sources to understand the religion-centered cultural evolution in northern India. Temples in Tanjavur, Pragadishwara Koil, Gangaikonda Solapuram and Tarasuram symbolize the magnificent structures the later Cholas built in Tamil Nadu. Vitala and Virupaksha temples at Hampi similarly speak of the contributions of Vijayanagara rulers. The important mosques are Quat-ul-Islam Masjid, Modhi-Masjid, Jama Masjid are the important mosques belonging to the medieval times. The forts of historical importance are Agra Fort, Chittoor Fort, Gwalior Fort and Delhi Red Fort. Palaces in Jaipur, Jaisalmer and Jodhpur are the important palaces. Qutub Minar and Alai Darwaza, the tombs of Iltutmish, Balban and all the Mughal rulers or the other prominent structures are sources of information. Cities in North India and Hampi in South India remain rich history of medieval India. Next we see coin. The picture and the legend on the coins convey the names of kings with their titles and portraits, even place, dates, dynasties and logos. The composition of metals in the coins gives us information on the economic condition of the empire. Mention of kings' achievements like military conquest, territorial expansion, trade links and religious faith can also be found in the coins. Muhammad Ghori had stamped the figure of goddess Lakshmi on his gold coins and had his name inscribed on it. This coin tells us that this early Turkish invader was in all likelihood liberal and religious outlook. Next we see religious literature. Devotional movement in South India and later in North resulted in the development of Bhakti or devotional literature. The Chola period was known as the period of devotional literature and works such as Kambaramayanam, Sekilar's Periya Puranam, Nalayir Divya Prabandham, composed by 12 alvas and compiled the Nadamuni, Devaram composed by Appar, Sambandar and Sundarar and compiled the Nambiyanda Nambi. Manikavasagar's Tiruvasagam, all were script during the Chola times. Jayadeva's Gita Govindam was a follow-up of the Bhakti movement in South India. Kabir Das, a 15th century mystic poet, also had an influence on the Bhakti movement in India. Next we see secular literature. Madhura Vijayam and Amukta Malyata were poems composed by Ganga Devi and Krishna Devaraya respectively that help us gain insight into the events and individuals associated with the Vijayanagara Empire. We have no Indian accounts about what happened during the Turks' invasion of India. For pre-Islamic periods, the only exception was Kalhana's Raja Tarangini. Books and biographies, autobiographies. Minhaj as-Siraj, patronized by Sultan Naziruddin Muhammad of slave dynasty, wrote Tabahat-i-Naziri. In the 13th century, Hasan Nizami, a migrant from Ghazni, wrote Tajul Mazir. Towards the end of Iltutmish's rule, it provides information about Qutbuddin Aibak and it considered the first official history of the Delhi Sultanate. Ziaud-Barni, a courtier of Muhammad Tughlaq, wrote Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi. In the 16th century, Emperor Babur's Nama and Abul Fazl's Aini Akbari and Akbar Nama provide detailed information about these two emperors. In the 17th century, Jahangir wrote his Chuki Jahangiri, throwing a lot of light on the period. Apart from autobiographies of emperors, Tabakat-e-Akbari, authorized by Nizam-ud-Din Ahmad, is considered reliable than the account of Abul Fazl. Similarly, Badani's outstanding work, Tarikh-e-Badauni, was published in 1595. This work spans 3 volumes. The volume on Akbar's regime is a frank and critical account of Akbar's administration, particularly of his religious policy. Next we see travelers and travelogues. Marco Polo, a Venetian traveler, visited when the Pandya kingdom was becoming the leading Tamil power in the 13th century. Marco Polo was twice in Koyal, which was port city in Thoothukudi district of Tamil Nadu. It was full of ships from Arabia and China. Marco Polo tells us that he himself came by a ship from China. According to Marco Polo, thousands of horses were imported into southern India by sea from Arabia and Persia. Ibn Battuta, an Arab-born scholar, travelled from Morocco right across North Africa to Egypt and then to Central Asia and India. His travelogue contains rich details about the people and the countries he visited. According to him, Egypt was rich then because of the whole of the Indian trade with the West passed through it. Ibn Battuta tells us of caste in India and the practice of sati. We learn from him that Indian merchants were carrying on brisk trade in foreign ports and Indian ships in the seas. He describes the city of Delhi, a vast and magnificent city. Those were the days when Sultan Muhammad bin Tughlaq transferred his capital from Delhi to Devagiri in the south, converting this city into a desert. In the south, Vijayanagar had many foreign visitors who left behind their detailed accounts of the state. An Italian named Niccolo Conti came in 1420. Abdur Razak came from Hurt in 1443. Domingo Paz, a Portuguese traveler, visited the city in 1522. All of them recorded their observations, which are very useful for us today to know the glory of the Vijayanagar Empire.
Learning gives creativity. Creativity leads to knowledge. Knowledge provides to you great. Thank you.